Alright, hello everyone, and my name is Nigel, of course, and this is going to be another video game review. So, this one is going to be for Call of Duty Vanguard, or the Call of Duty game that just recently released. And of course, this is going to be about the story mode for Call of Duty. But as always, I'm not professional. Oh, not professional video game reviewer, not professional reviewer in general. Just a man who enjoys a good time, and I had a pretty decent time with Call of Duty Vanguard. Now, the thing about Call of Duty is while they have a lot of titles, of course, and they range from different stuff, like of course Modern Warfare, Black Ops, even the stuff that nobody really liked that much, like Infinite Warfare and stuff. World War II, who was their roots. That's how they started off when it came to releasing games way back when on the PS2. Ooh, see, kids, Call of Duty's been around for a while, but that's how they started off with the World War II games, and from time to time they go back to their roots. In fact, there was a World War II game that they did, Call of Duty World War II, I believe, that was released in 2017. Let me just take a quick look. Yep, 2017, and um, they go back to their World War II roots, and they've done so again here. But let's get right into it. So, of course, like I said, I played the story mode. I have yet to play any online multiplayer, although I'll probably do that at some point. But in terms of its story mode, I thought it was actually a pretty decent story mode. Now, it is a pretty short story mode, all things considered. I think I beat it in about a week, and but that's how a lot of games go, especially with Call of Duty. I found that their story modes are pretty short because, as, let's face it, a lot of people really aren't there for Call of Duty's story modes, even though they've had good story modes, such as Modern Warfare, the recent one that came out in 2019. I mean, that Modern Warfare game story mode I really liked, but in terms of people being there. Story mode is not the first thing that comes to mind, but I feel like they put it in just to say they have a story mode. But nevertheless, the story here is a group of people who make up the Vanguard towards the end of World War II, who come together to who defeat the Nazis, of course, and this team. Let me just pull up the names of the characters so that I do not get them wrong. So we've got Second Lieutenant Lucas Riggs. Riggs from Australia. He's like the demolition expert of the team. Then we have U.S. pilot Wade Jackson, who's kind of the hotshot pilot, even though Lucas could be considered kind of a hotshot in his own right. And then we have Nurse Polina Petrova of the Red Army, aka the Russian Army, and she's like the sniper of the team. Her nickname is Lady Nightingale, and they are led by British paratrooper Sergeant Arthur Kingsley. And they wind up in jail around I believe it's on VE Day, pretty much when they take out the Nazis and everything, and they are there to get other information. And now, what the game does is kind of like goes back and forth. So sometimes there's flashbacks for the different characters and how and some of their stories and what they're like known for, and then we cut to uh, I guess you can call it present day, even though the game, of course, does take place. It's at the end of World War II in 1945. And we have different battles that are chronicled through the characters. Of course, the Battle of Stalingrad for Polina, and then the Battle of Midway for Wade Jackson and everything. So we get to see these characters and how they interact not just with their within themselves but with those around them and what shapes them and everything as they join up the Vanguard hard to take out the enemies of World War II, which of course is the Axis powers. And what I do like is, although combat in the game is pretty much the same as it almost always is with Call of Duty, they don't really change much when it comes to combat. If you've played a Call of Duty game, you've probably played them all, to be honest. But they do have a couple new mechanics here, which is interesting, and there's a unique one for each character. So, for Arthur Kingsley, he can command people to different parts. So, if there's like a tank that they have to take out, or like a minigunner, or he command them go take out that minigunner, and they'll go take it out and stuff. And then with Jackson, and he has focus ability, so he's able to slow down time and take out several enemies. He's and like automatically lock on and stuff, which is pretty cool. And then with Polina, because she's the sniper, or she's able to kind of divert enemy attention so that they shoot somewhere else while she takes them out. And then with Riggs, he can hold several different types of bombs. So while you mainly get, I believe, 2 grenades normally for the characters, Lucas can hold 4, and it makes sense because he's the demolition expert, and honestly all the abilities make sense for each character, and I do like how they do that. And the other thing is you can now loot enemies for or extra ammo. You can pick up their guns and everything that they drop, just like with other Call of Duty games, but you can actually loot them for ammo. Now, if I'm wrong about this, please correct me in the comments below, but I think this is the first time you're able to do that in a Call of Duty game, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think I was able to do that for Black Ops Cold War, which is the previous Call of Duty game. Not only they released, but the previous one that I played. I don't think you were able to do it for Black Ops Cold War, but you're able to do it here, which I think is pretty cool. But at the same time, it is kind of pointless because as you can pick up enemy guns anyway if you take them out. But I guess if you don't necessarily want to get rid of your weapons, you could probably find some extra ammo laying around on the fallen enemies. And of course, there's crates to allow you to refill all your ammo to full and everything. But we get to know the characters. There's 2 extra characters that get killed off. So there's Milos Novak, who you actually start off playing as until he is killed by the main villain, and which is Richter. And the other one is the right hand man to Arthur Kingsley. I just want to make sure I get his name right, Sergeant Richard Webb. So they're killed off pretty early in the story, and the main and you don't play as them aside from Novak, of course, but you do play as the main 4 characters that I talked about. But of course, they are fueled by their desire to get revenge for their fellow soldiers as part of the Vanguard. But they stop up the enemies, and this actually they keep it going after Hitler's suicide, which it was right before, of course, VE Day, Victory in Europe Day, which it took out the European part of the Axis powers. But then the main villain, Freisinger, I believe sorry, I misspoke. Richter is the kind of the right hand man to Freisinger, and Richter is kind of the doctor. He's trying to get info about this thing called Project Phoenix, which nobody quite knows what it is. Richter doesn't know. The Vanguard team doesn't know. That's why they're there in the first place, to learn what Project Phoenix is. But um, uh, Freisinger does indeed know, and it's pretty much the plan to who begin the Fourth Reich and take over where Hitler left off. Now, what's interesting is that apparently this was planned before Hitler's suicide. We hear the news of Hitler's suicide as told to Freisinger in the midst of the game, but this was in place the whole time. So, it begs the question: was Freisinger's plan to overthrow Hitler and take over the Nazi regime? I'll leave that up to you. I think that's kind of maybe the direction they were going with, but it's never really confirmed that that indeed was the actual plan. But we stopped Freisinger. He dismantled the Fourth Reich, and we of course on the plane that Jackson takes back with the rest of the Vanguard. He find a bunch of files indicating about what Project Phoenix was and what Freisinger's plans and everything were, and as they head over to who not stop go out on more missions as the Vanguard and everything. So, like I said, pretty decent story, pretty short, unfortunately. And what's weird is that Modern Warfare story, yeah, that one was kind of short, but it actually did feel a bit longer than the other ones for this game and Black Ops Cold War. But uh, yeah, so story mode holds pretty short for a Call of Duty game. But like I said, you're not really necessarily there for the story. You're more so there for like multiplayer and stuff, which it's in older games that necessarily I think they did have like multiplayer, but it was more local where it was like you and your friends sitting on your couch and you can do like the split screen and everything. But there was a bit more emphasis on the story and everything. But overall, I like the game. Not too many innovations, like I said, besides the two that I talked about, but. Not much innovation, but I think it was a pretty decent in game. It's a Call of Duty game, so you kind of already know what to expect in terms of like actually like graphic gory stuff. It's there, but I feel like it's not as potent as some of the other stuff we've seen in Call of Duty games. You know, the stuff that caused a lot of the controversies and stuff with the Call of Duty games in the past, but. With that being said, I like the game, I like the story mode, and I'm probably gonna play the online. And with that being said, thank you all so much for watching. Let me know in the comments below your thoughts on this game. And of course, we've got System Shock Radio and Nigel Dixie's Tales from the Labyrinth coming out later on today, so stay tuned for those. But in the meantime, thanks for watching, and I will see you guys later. Peace.